Hey, this video is for the Thomas Hobbes State of Nature reading assignment. Um, you all can read along with me, and then as you get to certain points, you all can pause and answer questions and do whatever you need to do. Try to find a good place for that. All right. So this is a heavy reading, but that's why we're going to do it together and totally doable. You just have to chunk it one part at a time. So while reading this paper, there will be words that you do not know. Use the following website to look up the words. Write the definitions in the boxes provided on the right side of the document. Let me put the website in there. Hold on. All right, put the website in there, merriam-webster.com. So this is a dictionary that you can use, an online dictionary to look up words you don't know. So this is from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679, The State of Nature. So right away, we know this is a great source. If it's from Stanford University Encyclopedia of Philosophy, but also know it's going to be a little bit more of a challenging read, so we're going to dive in and really take our time with this one. So Hobbes invites us to consider what life would be like in a state of nature. We talked about state of nature yesterday. Let's keep going. That is a condition without government. So state of nature is life without government, okay? Perhaps we would imagine that people might fare best in such a state, where each decides for herself how to act and as judge, jury, and executioner in her own case whenever disputes arise, and that this state is the appropriate baseline against which to judge the justifiability of political arrangements. So let's take a step back. So it says that maybe this state of nature where there is no government and someone can be their own judge, their own jury, their own executioner. They get to decide what happens in their life. There's no police or government or organization that's going to tell them what to do. Maybe this is the best place to judge the justifiability of political arrangements. So what does justifiability look like? So on the right over here, it says, click on this box. So we click on that word justifiability. It says, click on this box, click the reply box, and define justifiability. So we're going to define justifiability right down here. But first, we need to go and find the definition. So we're going to take justifiability, copy that, head over to our Merriam-Webster. We're going to paste that in. You guys go ahead and do that. You can pause the video whenever if you want to. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. But it means capable of being justified. Okay, well, what does justified mean? Well, it's right here. Excusable. Okay, so what type of government? So excusable is our word here. Okay, so I'm going to reply. It means excusable. Okay, it can be excused, it can be explained, it can be justified, it can be said this is the best way to do it. So let's say what it's saying here. This state is this state of nature with no government is the appropriate baseline against which to judge the excusable or the justified of political arrangement. So this is the best place to see if the type of governments we have are right or wrong. Okay, so if we live in the state of nature, we can see what are humans really like, and is the government we have good or bad, okay, compared to the state of nature. So Hobbes terms this situation as the condition of mere nature, a state of perfectly private judgment in which there is no agency with recognized authority to arbitrate disputes and effective power to enforce its decisions. So in the state of nature, there is no government to enforce laws. Hence, we can see what humans would really be like in the state of nature. So what does Hobbes mean by the state of nature? So as we discussed, what is the state of nature? So it is the condition without government. It is the lack of government, or it is the what the world or society would be like if there was no government. So pause the video, go and answer that. Okay, so what has the power to judge and execute punishment in the state of nature? What or who, say that, what or who has the power to judge and execute punishment in the state of nature? If we go up here, it says where each person decides for herself or himself how to act as a judge, jury, and executioner in his or her own case whenever disputes arise. So who has the power to judge and execute punishment? We do ourselves. Okay, we're the only ones that have that power. So go in and answer that question, that we are the only ones, that individuals, not government, not the police, not juries, not judges, but we individually have the power to go in and do that. So go and answer that question. Pause and go and answer that question. Okay, so let's keep reading. Hobbes' near descendant, John Locke, who we talked about yesterday, insisted in his second treatise of government that the state of nature was preferred over subjection to the arbitrary power of an absolute sovereign. So there's quite a lot of big words there. So let's look up subjection. So what is subjection? So we're going to copy this and go over to defining it. I'm going to put it into our thing. So what is subjection? So one that is placed under authority or control. Okay, so it is someone that is placed, or something that is placed under authority or control. So we come over here and we would reply and copy and paste that in. I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to let you all work on that. And you can pause the video to make sure you have the right thing and get that typed in there. So going back up here, I'm going to edit this or delete this comment, because I want you all to be typing that in yourself. So the state of nature is preferred over the subjection or forced to follow something to the arbitrary. So let's look up arbitrary. Existing or coming about seemingly at random or by chance, or as a capricious and unreasonable act of will, okay? Based on or determined by individual preference. So we're going to go with this first one, arbitrary. Existing or coming about. Let's do coming about seemingly at random or by chance, okay? So the randomness, so one word there would be randomness. So the random power of an absolute sovereign, okay? So you would, for arbitrary, you put in here, you might put random. So was preferred over the forced government to the random power of an absolute sovereign. So let's look up absolute sovereign. What is an absolute sovereign? So it gives us a bunch of words that it's not exactly entered into the dictionary. So what do we want? Let's just look up sovereign. We've had this definition in the past, as my computer slows down, and basically it is like a king or a queen or someone that has all power, okay? So since my computer is going really slow, we're going to go back, and you could put under absolute sovereign like a king or a queen or someone that has all the power, okay? So going back and rereading this, so it says, Hobbes' near descendant John Locke insisted in his second treatise of government that the state of nature was preferred over being ruled upon by the random power of an absolute sovereign or a king or a queen. So John Locke believed the state of nature, no government is better than a king or a queen or someone that has absolute power. So we wouldn't want someone that has absolute power in John Locke's view. Okay, we would want someone that is, we would prefer just no government over an absolute tyrannical, complete control government. So that's what you put in number 4. So hit pause, make sure you have that answer. But Hobbes, okay, continue on. But Hobbes famously argued that such a desolate condition of masterless men without subjection to laws and a coercive power to tie their hands from rapine and revenge would make impossible all of the basic security upon which comfortable, sociable, civilized life depends. Wow, there's a lot there to unfold. So let's take a look. Hobbes famously argued that a desolate condition, so let's look up desolate. So what does desolate mean? Lacking restraint. Okay, so we could take that and put that into our definition of desolate. So such a lacking restraint condition of masterless men, so people without government in the state of nature, talking about the state of nature, so people without any government, with subjection to laws, without any laws, and a coercive power. So let's look up coercive. Serving or intended to coerce. So let's look at coerce means. To compel to an act or choice. So being forced to choose. So coercive is being forced to choose. Power to tie their hands from rapine and revenge. So what's rapine or rapine? So pillage or plunder. Okay. So rapine is to pillage or plunder or destroy. So you write that in there box. So remember, you can pause as we go. And revenge would make impossible all of the basic security upon which comfortable, sociable, civilized life depends. So I went ahead and summarized that for you. And he basically says here, without laws and forceful management of people, none of the securities civilized life depends on would exist. So Hobbes says that we're so crazy, we're a terrible people, we're deep down just gonna rage and destroy and kill and murder and fight, that we need a strong government to keep us from doing that. Hobbes goes on to list several concepts that would not exist in the state of nature. In the paragraph below, so you need to do this. So in the paragraph below, highlight at least 5 of the things that Hobbes believes would not exist in the state of nature. So what would not exist if the state of nature, if we had no government? So what would not exist if we had no government? So there would be no place for industry. So you can highlight that, because the fruit thereof is uncertain, and consequently no culture of the earth. So there wouldn't be any culture, no navigation, nor use of the commodities that may be imported by sea. So no trade, no commodious buildings, no instruments of moving and removing such things as require much force. So no structures or building, no knowledge of the face of the earth. So no exploration, no account of time, no arts, no letters, and which is worst of all, continual fear and danger of violence. So continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. If this is the state of nature, people have strong reasons to avoid it, which can be done only by submitting to some mutually recognized public authority, a strong government, he says. For so long a man is in the condition of mere nature, which is the condition of war, as private appetite is the measure of good and evil. So what does he say would not exist? So you should have highlighted there wouldn't be any industry, there wouldn't be any culture or navigation of the globe or commodities. Commodities are like basic goods for living. No instruments of moving, so no transportation, no knowledge of the face of the earth, so we wouldn't be able to map the earth, no account of time, no arts, no writing, and continual fear. Okay, so he lists a lot of things that you should have been able to highlight in that section. So looking at the paragraph above, what you highlighted, so you should have highlighted, so pause the video if you haven't highlighted yet, go highlight. Do you think this sounds exaggerated? So if there was no government, do you think all of that would actually happen? Why does Hobbes believe that these concepts would disappear? So explain what you think, and then explain why Hobbes thinks this would all disappear. And it's clear that Hobbes believes that it's because man is evil. Deep down, human beings, men and women, people are evil. And we are selfish and brutish and not wanting to help one another. So pause the video, make sure you get that answer. All right. So although, we're going to keep reading here, although many readers have criticized Hobbes' state of nature as pessimistic, so let's look up pessimistic. What does pessimistic mean? I can get it. Of relating to or characterized by pessimism, gloomy. Okay, it's like sad, gloomy. Okay, downtrodden. So sad, gloomy, downtrodden. So although many readers have criticized Hobbes' state of nature as sad or depressing, he constructs it is from a number of individually plausible assumptions. Hobbes assumes that people generally shun death. We try to stay away from death, avoid death, and that the desire to preserve their own lives is very strong in most people. While people have local affections, people around them that they love, their benevolence, let's look up benevolence. Benevolence is disposition to do good, their willingness to do acts of kindness. Okay, so willingness to do acts of kindness or love. So their willingness to love is limited, and they have a tendency to partiality. So we need to look up partiality. I should have put that one in here. So what is the definition of partiality, or to be partial? Bias. Okay, our tendency to be biased. You know, and I'm going to even simplify, and I'm going to change that word to bias. So we just have that. So it'll just look like that for you. Is limited, and they have a tendency to be biased. Concerned that others should agree with their own high opinions of themselves, people are sensitive to slights. They make, let me fix this, be biased, sorry. Opinions themselves, people are sensitive to slights. They make evaluative judgments, but often use seemingly impersonal terms like good and bad to stand for their own personal preferences. They are curious about the causes of events and anxious about their futures. According to Hobbes, these characteristics incline people to adopt religious beliefs, although the content of those beliefs will differ depending upon the sort of religious education one has happened to receive. So what he's saying here is it's very easy for humans to draw a line in the sand and say something is either good or bad, good or evil, okay? And we don't have a lot of gray in between, and we don't have a lot of patience or willingness to help one another. So let's sum this up and kind of re-quote this to make sure we have understanding. But Hobbes believes that our desire to preserve our own lives is strong. This means that while people have, and we have it right here, local affections, so type that down there, make sure you understand that, while we have people around us that we really care about, their benevolence or their willingness to be kind to others is limited. So right, limited there. And they have a tendency to be biased. Okay, we're not willing to accept everyone, and we're going to kind of see what we think is right as good and what other people bad, which has led to wars and terrible things happening in the world. And And Hobbes is boiling it down to that point. So pause, make sure you have that. All right, continuing on. We're just going to go down to number 7. Hobbes ascribes to each person in the state of nature a liberty right to preserve him or herself, which he terms the right of nature. This is the right to do whatever one sincerely judges needful for one's preservation. Yet, because it is at least possible that virtually anything might be judged necessary for one's preservation, this theoretically limited right of nature becomes in practice an unlimited right to potentially anything, or as Hobbes puts it, a right to all things. Hobbes further assumes as a principle of practical rationality that people should adopt what they see to be the necessary means to their most important ends. So what is the right of nature? How does this impact our judgment? So the right of nature in Hobbes' eyes is in the state of nature and what we do with our daily lives if we did not have government would be this right to all things. Is this if there is no one stopping us, we can do whatever we want, we can get whatever we want, and it doesn't matter the consequences because we get to judge ourselves. So Hobbes believes that this is important in the right of nature. This impacts our judgment because we basically can get whatever we want. So in conclusion, Hobbes really believes that we need a strong, strong government. Now I'm going to add one last question in here as I'm writing. Number 8. What does Hobbes believe about human beings? And what type of government should humans be ruled under? All right, I'm going to leave you to answer that. Okay, and you should have a very clear answer of that after looking at this. All right, good luck. Thanks.